So today I was asked, why is it that a lot of people aren't into farming? Why is it that a lot of people aren't interested in getting involved in agriculture? Because I was being informed, I was just being asked by a friend of mine. So we had the conversation. I said, look, let's not start off there. Let's start off at, it's a similar question to almost asking kids, why would a kid not be interested in mathematics and science and so forth, but would rather be interested in other subjects? It has to do with the foundation, how these people were introduced to this field. If the kid was introduced to agriculture in terms of, it was early mornings, granddad woke him up very early before the sun came out to take the cattle out to go graze them. This is not in the communal areas, in the rural areas. This is what happens. So because of that labor intensivity that he was involved, not involved, but that he was exposed to, he builds that dislike for it and doesn't want to get involved in it. And when he leaves his grandparents' farm or leaves the rural areas to come to the city and come sees how convenient city life is, lights, electricity, running water, running toilets, he's like, you know what, I'm not going back to the farm. I never want to see a cow in my life again, because of how he was exposed to it. So this is part of the reason why a lot of young people are extremely not interested in getting involved in agriculture, particularly those that come from the rural areas. They don't want to go back to it. It's something that they're not interested into it anymore. But beside that, there are much more pressing issues as to why we, as young people, don't want to get involved in farming. Besides just the labor intensivity of the job requirement that is there, it is also things such as, in order to farm, you need to have money. I know a lot of people who tell you, if you have a farm, you're rich. And I understand where that mentality comes from, because farming is not a cheap enterprise. It's an expensive enterprise. You know, you got things such as workers' labor you need to pay off. Your workers need to get paid every end of the month, of course, every end of the month, every 30th of every 25th, like everyone else. You know, the materials that are used on the farm, such as the fencing, the poles, the droppers that you buy, cost money. So this is a part of the reason that make some people be like, I don't want to get into farming, because it's going to really burn a hole in my pocket. And also the feeds of the cattle, the medication your cattle use, and worst case scenario, your animals die from things such as drought or get bit by a snake or eaten a poisonous plant. So it's all that expenses that add up, and the biggest one is investment, taking time to come back. You spend close to $1 million in your agricultural enterprise and you don't make $1 million back. So it's all those factors that come in. Dissecting them one by one. As I said, number one, land is not cheap. Acquiring of a farm is not cheap. It's a labor, it's a financial intensive undertaking that you need to take. Of course, you need to have money to buy a farm. If you're fortunate enough that you have 3 million or 5 million or 10 million lying around, you can afford to buy a farm cash and not be stressed by the banks and whatnot. But if you buy the farm through the bank, of course, then you gotta pay back a bond. But if you're trying to buy a farm through the bank as a young person, you approach the bank and you say, look, I'm interested in buying a farm AC in the Utavi area. The first thing the bank is going to ask you, because the bank has its own requirements before they give you a loan. They got to look at your credit score, of course. They got to look at do you have a life policy? Do you have fixed insurance? They have to literally sit down and look at all these things. And most of the time, as a young person just graduating from university, or a person who just finished high school and doesn't want to continue education but wants to go into agriculture, these are things that are looked at. And if you do not meet these requirements, you can't really afford to acquire a farm. How will you acquire a farm if you don't even have a life policy? So the banks are going to be reluctant to help you out of a loan, or help you out of a soft loan, or help you out to acquire this farm, because how are they going to get their money back? How are you going to pay them back? You know, so that is another issue. The acquisition of a farm is expensive. Another issue is also as I said, the feeds, the materials that are going to be used on the farm. The materials that are going to be used on the farm are also expensive. You know, look at livestock feeds, cattle feeds, livestock feeds, and the ones that are where the raw material is being brought in from South Africa. The price of livestock feed is affected by the price of fuel. So every time the fuel prices go up, the price of livestock feed go up too. It is, how do I put it? It's a chain reaction. It's a chain reaction that happens. If the price of fuel goes up, the price of livestock feed goes up. Right now, as we're speaking, Namibia is still experiencing a drought. We're praying that this month, which is August, and the next month conditions will start improving. But we're experiencing a drought right now. A bale of Lucerne that you're going to buy at Agri to feed your livestock will cost you $155. And if the fuel prices go up, which I read they're going up in South Africa also, I believe that might become more expensive, might go from $155 to $160, $170, like that. So these are things that affect another reason why a lot of young people don't want to get involved, or let's just say why people don't want to get involved, also particularly young people don't want to get involved in agriculture. The prices of feeds become expensive. And the price of labor is expensive. Labor is a touch and go conversation in farming, because you need a good workforce, you need a good team of workers. Those guys are the machines that keep the engine running to be on your farm. And a good labor team costs money, and actually a bit more expensive than usual, because these are the guys, if you're a weekend farm and you don't live in your farm, these are the guys that maintain, run and monitor your farm. They manage your farm when you're not there. So you need to have money to pay these guys, and you need to pay them a decent salary. Every year when our politicians come together and they debate on this topic, they always say, look, we need to increase the labor cost for farm workers, or even people that clean homes or people that clean yards, to increase how much they can get paid, to make it a much more living wage, which I am for. But that's another reason also why a lot of people don't want to get into agriculture, because the cost of good labor, a good workforce, is expensive. The third thing is also, the third thing is also the acquisition of livestock. If you're going into farming, particularly, let me say, cattle farming or goat farming or sheep farming or pig farming, you have to acquire the best genetics, breeding material available to you. And most of the case, you walk onto someone's farm and you want to buy livestock. You get your cows, you just need to buy a good quality bull. And these bulls cost money. You walk into the kraal, you want the best bull in the kraal, and the best bull can cost you 100 to 200,000 Namibian dollars or more. So this is another thing, the acquisition of livestock. And if you are buying good quality bulls and good quality heifers, I think the cheapest bull you get on market is 20,000. The cheapest female animal, heifer or cow, you can get for 10 to 15,000. And if you're going to start production, and if you want to be, and you say, I don't want to do commercial, I want to be a stud breeder, you're talking, you can spend close to $1 million just buying livestock, bulls and cows put together. I said good genetics cost money. Of course, buying good genetic of good quality breeding material will cost you money if you want to go into start breeding. That's another thing that you need to look at. Farm implementations. If you're going to go into overall farming, you got to buy yourself a tractor. The tractor is expensive. It costs money to buy a tractor. You don't get tractors for free. The tractor is expensive. Then you also have to buy its equipment, the plows, the hoes, the machine that rips and plants the seed at the same time. That you also need to buy. So that costs money. So money is one of the biggest deterrent. It's finances. The finances, if they're not available, a lot of people don't want to go into it, because in some serious cases in agriculture, you've had that almost similar to mining. You keep on investing money into this business, and sometimes your returns aren't met, or the investment returns aren't coming back that quick. They take time. You could have started farming in 2010 and it's 2019 and you haven't made back that $1 million you invested into your farm. And also another good managerial skill. The biggest deterrent why a lot of people want to get into farming is time. Farming needs time and patience. And if that's something, and if your schedule is already packed and you're a person who can only go to your farm once a month or twice a month or once a year, it's gonna fail, because it needs you to be available every time, anytime, the same way your child or your wife or your school or your company would need you to be there. It needs you to be present to see things happen. And a good managerial skill, of course. So these are the things that I've highlighted why a lot of young people aren't really getting involved in agriculture at this point, because it's a point that you got your first job, you of course want to make the money, you want to drive an expensive car, you want to live the lifestyle, you want to be able to travel to Dubai, and you want to enjoy life. But once you get into farming, you can't really do these things. That money you've put aside, like, okay, I'm going to go on a vacation, I'm going to go to Dubai this year. That money, you just get called from your farm work and be like, yo, boss, the major water pipe burst this morning, or it broke and we need to fix it. And you go to the shop and go get a quotation for it, and it's maybe like 10,000 or more, the big water pipe. And now you got to buy that and fix that. There is no support you receive. So this is part of the reasons that a lot of young people are reluctant to get into that business, because there's really no support you get. But how can we turn it around? How can we fix it? What can the government do? What can banks do? Firstly, this was said at the land conference, make soft loans available for people to acquire farms, young people, which are more friendly, like tailor-make loans that are friendly to young people. Understand this guy is just graduating from university, does not have any collateral, doesn't have any fixed assets, beside his parents' fixed assets, which he would not want to risk. So, see how you can assist them, number one. Number two, mentorship. Mentorship needs to happen, not just attending schools. Mentorship by commercial stud, various farmers, horticulture, horticulture, poultry farmers, cattle farmers, pig farmers, whatever form of farmers, mentoring these people so they understand the business and what it will take. Mentoring them, which is a very important thing. You need to be able to mentor these people. The third thing that I would say we need to look at is farm financing, of course, which was one of the first times I said, making it easier for people to be able to buy farms, but also having it financial literacy. I mean, let me not say, but financial literacy, let me put it that way. Being able to teach young people how to save money and how to use money properly. Let them understand the margins that happens. Once a person is financial literate, I think then his business can really progress. And also, when you get into farming, when you're acquiring your implementations that are going to assist you farming, like your tractors, your vehicles you're going to be using, you don't need to get the top of the range Land Cruiser V6 2018 model or 2019 model. You can get yourself what do you call this? A Toyota Hilux 2.4 D4D from 2017, as long as it's in good working condition. There is no need to rush and go buy the latest and fanciest 4x4 off-road car just to show off, because it's not necessarily needed. You just need something to get you from point A to point B. Same thing with tractors. You don't need to go buy a Mercy Ferguson truck, the one with the tractor with 6 tires that you can remote control drive. You don't need that. You just need a simple John Deere or Mercy Ferguson or Landini tractor that you're able, the old school one, that you're able just to plow with your old reapers and seeders, that you're able to plow a field. So as long as people start understanding that, you don't need the Porsches and the latest. You just need something that is functional and that can do the work for you. The second thing also is, I mean, not the second, but the next thing I'd love to touch on is also when you're acquiring your livestock, you don't need to go and go get the most expensive animal in the kraal. You can get the most functional. Doesn't need to be the best looking bull in the kraal. It can, as long as it's functional, it can do its job. As long as you get something that is able to give you 20 calves a year or more calves a year, it doesn't need to be the best or the one that won at the showgrounds or that has what reputation or is a champion of what. It's sometimes not necessarily needed. You just need a good bull that comes from a good bloodline, but that is not going to put a big hole in your pocket. Once we understand that, then I believe a lot of us, young, old, and even senior people that are into farming, particularly young people, would not really necessarily have a negative outlook to farming. If you're doing it the right way, you will not really experience the expenses that are there in farming. Yes, labor, of course, let's touch on that. If you have a good labor or a team that is doing good work for you on your farm, that is really maintaining and managing your farm properly, it shouldn't matter how much you pay them. You should just be willing to pay them because they're doing the job for you. Because workforce is an important aspect of farming. If you don't have a good workforce, you can't really farm. Ask any established farmer, tell you that. If you don't have good workers, it's difficult to farm. You need a good team that is a good team of farm workers that can do the labor that you can't, that you are unable to do when you are not around. And that also comes down to how you treat these people. If you treat them right and you treat them fairly, they are able, or they are willing, or they are capable, or they are more than willing to do the work and to really keep you happy. As they say, happy laborers, a happy farm. You know, I also say another thing is also government support. If the government could come on board and assist a lot of young farmers who are trying to get into this business and coming into this business, as I said, could assist them with mentorship, which I also pointed out, could assist them with finances, which I also pointed out, and could also assist them with keeping an eye on them, like keeping track of their development. What exactly have they done? You need to be able to, as the government, whether it's Ministry of Land or Ministry of Agriculture or Ministry of Youth and Sport, you need to be able to come every once in a month, send an inspector to this farm to have a look at what this young person has done, to listen where his problems are, and for him to be able to say, look, I've tried to plant potatoes here, they're failing, can't we try a different crop? Having that not election, but a relationship where people are able to talk to each other and assist each other, which is the biggest thing. If that can happen from the government, whether it's the Ministry of Land or Ministry of Agriculture, we can do this. I believe then we can really get a lot of young people into the business. But also to the young people that are interested in getting into farming, as I said, carry out your research. Most of us get into this business without knowing what we're getting ourselves into. The biggest thing that I was told when I said, look, we are going into farming, the first thing, I had a mentor who told me and looked me straight in the eyes and said, you gotta kiss goodbye to your social life. Your social life is gonna disappear because the farm is gonna become your front and back and side. That's all you're gonna be thinking about, your farm, your cattle, your livestock. You're gonna be broke half of the time because half of the money, a lot of money you put away for rainy days is money that's just gonna go to your farm. And he also told me, which is a funny thing, is if you're a young person and you're getting into farming, make sure that your girlfriend comes from a farming family so she has an understanding of what it takes for you to get into this business. Because if you have a girlfriend that doesn't come from a farming family and it's a girlfriend from a city family, a family that's well off and lives in the city and loves going clubbing and travel weekends to Dubai, going to Dubai or going to South Africa to Durban, and she doesn't understand farming, you guys are going to clash, and that relationship, you can kiss it goodbye. The first week you start farming, that relationship is going to come to an end. So the biggest and the other most important aspect that I want to say, this is a business where you need to be patient. You need to be patient. You need to have a cool head, be patient, and be passionate about. A lot of bad things can happen in this business. Cattle can get stolen. Lightning can strike your cattle. Your animals can eat a poisonous plant and die. Someone can poison your water source. All these bad things can happen. But even predatization, predators, leopards, lions, hyenas, jackals, these things can happen. But if you have the passion and the love for it, it doesn't matter how many times you get punched and you get punched down to the ground, you'll always be able to get up because you love it. So the love and the passion needs to be there for it. The long hours standing in the dust of cattle and being chased by cattle and jumping over the fence and throwing a rope around the cow's the ankles and trying to control it, bring it down so you guys can brand it. All these things, it's going to be there. It's going to be labor intensive, but you need just to enjoy it and love it. Love every minute of it. The last aspect that I'd love to point out is it takes time, but just it's not a marathon, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. Try to enjoy the run. Don't focus on the end goal. Don't focus about the $1 million you put to and you are planning to make 1.2 or 3 million back from the farm. Don't look at that. Focus on it, but not too much. Take time to enjoy the marathon itself, the running, what it's teaching you about yourself, what it's teaching you about you as an individual, what you are capable of. That's the biggest thing that I'd love to end off. So those are my opinions on why a lot of young people are into farming. You guys can watch the video, like it, share it, give your opinions. I'll be interested to read some of the opinions and statements most of you guys would have, and we can have a good conversation around this topic, as it's a topic that we should have. We need to, as I've said, we always need to, in every industry, we need to get young people involved in it. We can't just have senior people who are near retirement age or people who are in their late 30s or 40s getting involved into farming. We need to get, as I've said, the youngest farmer needs to be about 20 or even 21 or even 18. That's what we have to be working towards. That's my opinion. Thanks for watching.